You walked out of urgent care thinking you were fine, just a little sore. 2 weeks later, though, your back's locking up and you're having a hard time lifting things at work that you used to do all the time. When you get home at night, you're starting to worry that you aren't really sure how badly your back was hurt. Hi, I'm Matt Albrecht, a personal injury attorney in Washington, and this is one of the most common traps I see after an accident. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 common medical missteps that can quietly sabotage your case, even when providers mean well, and you don't want to be accused of malingering just because someone said you're good to go. If you don't want to miss out on possibly tens of thousands that are owed to you under your claim, and you don't want to be accused of being a malingerer just because you listen to your doctors, then you're going to want to pay attention to these mistakes, and we'll help you avoid them. Number 1, you might not need treatment, but be sure anyway. Let's start with one of the most impactful misunderstandings I see after a Washington car crash. A medical provider says, you don't need any more treatment, or they might just say, you can wait and see. Sometimes these things heal on their own. Maybe it's after 1 visit, maybe 2. Maybe it was from the urgent care doctor or the emergency room. Well, the emergency room doctor's job is not to get you back fully recovered. It is to make sure that you survive. So if they don't have specific physical therapy recommendations for you, that doesn't mean there's not more treatment that you might want to seek out. See, here's the truth. Only you know if you're still hurting. And in Washington, if you stop treating just because someone says you're fine, it could cost you your claim. I can give you some real examples where this has happened. Someone hurt in a car crash goes to the emergency room and gets an x-ray. Great, nothing's broken. I was able to walk in and I was able to walk out. The emergency room doctors don't tell him any follow-up care he needs to get. They send him home. So for 2 weeks, he toughs it out, even though the neck and back pain keep getting worse. When he goes back to the doctor later and finds out his back had a more serious injury, but not the kind of injury that shows up on an x-ray, the insurance company says, well, maybe that happened later. Maybe it happened because you went back to work instead of following through on further medical care. Why would this happen? Well, because the entire defense industry is built on you having gaps in your medical care. This is one of the main ways they save the insurance companies money. Under Washington law, what you need to know is that you have a duty to mitigate your damages. What does that mean? It means that if you're hurt, you need to seek out care and you need to try to do everything you can to heal from how you were hurt. It's not fair, is what the law says, for you to be hurt and then not go seek out medical care and then ask for payment for the injuries when you could have possibly recovered from those injuries. So not only is it not something that's a kindness you're doing by avoiding the medical providers, in fact, it will be used against you to accuse you of failing to take care of your own health. Now, if a provider dismisses your complaints or says all you need is rest, but you still think something's wrong, you need to trust your own instincts on this, and sometimes you need to ask for a referral or a second opinion. In some cases, people even need to switch clinics or doctors. Document your symptoms, get the help you need. Health is your first priority. I'm not telling you this to boost an insurance claim. I'm telling you this because I've seen too many people disappointed years after a crash, realizing only then how badly they were hurt. This isn't about money. This is about whether or not you will recover from the injuries. If you don't seek out medical care, the chances of recovering will be much less. Number 2, it might feel minor, but soft tissue injuries can be serious. Here's another common mistake. Your injuries are just soft tissue. Well, your body moves because of soft tissue. Your heart is soft tissue. Your brain is soft tissue. Saying your injuries are only soft tissue does not make any sense as a way to say they're not important. Maybe you walked away from a car crash, a slip and fall, or a bike crash. The emergency room says it's just a sprain, nothing's broken, take some ibuprofen. The problem? Well, in Washington, most accident claims are built around these soft tissue injuries. Muscle strains, whiplash, back spasms can be life-altering. A common thing my clients have heard is, it's just neck soreness, you'll probably be fine in a week or 2. But then they can't sleep, can't turn their head. Or at night after work, they find themselves laying on the couch for hours just trying to recover, taking ibuprofen, wondering when this is going to get better. But also wondering, maybe I've waited too long. You need to trust your instincts on these questions and you need to follow up. Finally, you might even go to physical therapy for months and then find yourself not getting better. This can create a lot of guilt and doubt for people who've been injured for the first time and don't know what to expect. They think they're doing something wrong. They think that they're failing the system rather than that the system is failing them. In reality, if you listen at that point to your body and what it's saying and admit that what is being done is not working, that's when you can get to the second choice of a doctor who might give you other alternatives. A lot of times there are specialists who understand more than your general physician about how to recover or how to diagnose the more serious soft tissue injuries. Some soft tissue injuries will need surgery, but if you don't tell your doctor about the pain and you don't let them know that you're still experiencing it even after treatment, then they won't know that you need to continue on and maybe see a specialist. Now, down the road, if you haven't sought follow-up care, the insurance company will jump on that. In court, they'll argue you weren't really hurt. After all, you went to the physical therapist and then you didn't tell anyone it was still hurting you 6 months later. Until a year later, then you said, I need to go back. I finally had enough. I can't take this pain. And that's when you found out that actually you needed a surgery. Well, that gap in time is exactly what the insurance company wants in order to fight you on these invisible injuries, because this is the common attack that defense lawyers use. Don't let anyone minimize your suffering. If your pain is real, you need to spell it out. You need to be honest with the medical provider. It's just as bad to be dishonest and minimize your pain as it is to be dishonest and exaggerate. And let me be clear, I won't represent anyone who I think is exaggerating or malingering. That's not what I'm recommending to you. But you need to be honest about how you are recovering or not recovering in order to help your medical providers do the best they can for you. Remember, this isn't just an insurance claim. This is also your health and your future, and they depend on your recovery and your following through on medical advice. Number 3, remember, you can choose your own provider. After an accident, you might hear you have to go to the doctor that they send you to. Or you might think you're required to go to a specific general practitioner you've seen before, or one that's assigned by your health insurance company. That's a general misconception, and one that the insurance adjusters are happy to have you fall into. See, certain providers are tied to certain medical providers. One way this can happen is you might even get a recommendation for who you need to see through personal injury protection or health insurance. An adjuster might even set up an appointment for you. In some cases, they might try to talk you into going to an independent medical examination. Trust me, if an insurance company is sending you to an independent medical examination, it's not independent. The doctor is being paid by the insurance company. And it is not for the purpose of being as independent as possible. It's because the insurance company is looking for a reason to deny your claim. You have the absolute right to see any provider that you trust, and you can go look for the correct provider for your injuries. For some people, this means the family doctor. It could mean a chiropractor or a physical therapist. It could mean a massage therapist or acupuncturist, though I recommend that you go to an MD whenever possible to make sure that they would recommend you go to those other treatments. It is best to see a doctor. The law allows you to choose the best care in any event for your needs. The insurance company can't force you to see a provider who doesn't believe you or who minimizes your pain or who refuses to see you for more than 5 minutes. I've had clients who have worked with clinics that were recommended by their insurance company, but after 2 visits, the doctor says, you've recovered fully, there's nothing less that we can do for you. What would have been more accurate would be for that doctor to say, I don't know what else there is to do for you. Because you see, it turned out, in at least one of the cases I've worked on, that person who was told there was nothing left for them to do later saw a doctor who ordered an MRI and discovered a herniated disc that made all the difference and allowed her to get the kind of treatment she needed to finally feel better. This is why you want to pick a provider who believes you, one that will talk to you, who takes your questions seriously, and who will answer your questions for you. If you're not comfortable with your doctor, you can always change. In fact, in Washington, switching providers or getting a second opinion is a legal right you have. This doesn't mean it's always a great idea. If you can go to the same doctor and stay with them, you should. And if you can trust your doctor, you should follow every recommendation that they make. But if there are reasons you have that you will not be trusting them anymore, or that it seems to you like they're not taking your injuries seriously, then you have the right to seek out a second opinion. Number 4, tests might not show everything. Another common issue is that just because something doesn't show up on an X-ray or MRI, you must be fine. All the tests are negative. You must be good. This is a common thing I hear from clients who come in. They're happy that the test came back negative, but now they're confused. Why do I still have memory problems? Why do I get a headache every time the lights are on? You see, with concussions, with back injuries, or with any kind of sprained muscles, you can have chronic pain after a car crash, even though the tests come back negative. Here's the reality. Just because a test doesn't show a fracture or tear doesn't mean you're healthy. Many injuries won't show up on many scans, especially in the first few days or weeks after an accident. Whiplash, nerve damage, or brain injuries can go undetected. Let me share a story from a real client. Jake went to the emergency room after a serious car crash, had imaging done of his brain, and was told, "Good news, the CT scan is clear." He didn't remember how the crash happened, and he wasn't sure why his head still hurt, but when he got sent home, he was told, "You just need rest," and he received a pamphlet. Now, he kept struggling at home, and it turned out he struggled at work. He ended up struggling with his marriage as well. It caused a lot of problems when he couldn't regulate his emotions, lost his temper, couldn't remember things he'd just said, but also got angry if anyone tried to remind him. This is not just one person's story. I've seen this story play out dozens of times. Sometimes it results in divorce, job loss, and symptoms that go on for years until a person can be properly diagnosed and treated for serious head injuries. Just because the CT scan is negative, that doesn't mean you're going to be fully recovered anytime soon, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to need additional treatment. You might have to seek out on your own. If folks in this circumstance are not persistent on their own, then what would happen is they can go on for years without the treatment they need, and their claim will be reduced to next to nothing. Now, Washington courts know that symptoms matter just as much as test results. You see, you're allowed to be hurt, and you're entitled to be paid for what you're going through, even if it doesn't show up on a CT scan or an X-ray. That's why you should never let a provider or an insurance company convince you that you're making it up. Document those invisible injuries. Get referrals if you need them to other experts. Get second opinions. You're not alone. There are also associations for brain injury that can help in those cases. Number 5, don't rush to settle, even if coverage is tight. This is the last misunderstanding that I need you to watch out for. You need to settle your case now before you lose your medical coverage. Sometimes this comes from medical billing offices. Sometimes it's just whispered by insurance adjusters. But here's the truth. In Washington, you do not need to rush your case just because your PIP or your health insurance is running out. Here's how the pressure works. Let's say you have $10,000 in PIP coverage, a very common amount that would be the minimum, and it's almost used up from accident-related bills. A provider like a chiropractor or physical therapist might say, "You're almost out of money. When you're done with this $10,000, I'm not going to be able to continue treating you." The insurance adjuster will then tell you, "You're going to get less if you wait. I can get you the most right now." But that's just not true. Your case is worth what it's worth, even if it takes months or years to fully understand your injuries. Washington law gives you 3 years to bring a personal injury claim. Rushing to settle too early is one of the costliest mistakes I see. Patience, when it comes to your claims, is worth money. You want to be persistent and continue advocating for yourself and your own health, but you want to be patient and make sure you fully understand all of your injuries and what treatment they're going to require before you try to settle. Taking money too early is a huge mistake. I've seen one example where a person settled his own claim, thought that he was fine, took a policy limit, and resolved things because he thought that he was going to be able to handle the pain. Once he returned to work, it turned out he was not going to be able to handle things, and that made him go through the next step of diagnosis, and that's when he learned the reason he hurt so bad after every day of work is because he needed a back surgery. But now he had already settled it on his own. Now, I was able to jump in and help him in that situation, but for the most part, you don't want to be trying to settle and hope that you can get lucky down the road. Most of the time, if you settle early, you're probably going to be settling cheap. You want to make sure you have explored all of the possible ways to recover back to the way you were the day before that crash. Don't let yourself be pressured into a quick settlement. Your health comes first. Take care of your health. Talk to a reputable attorney before you sign anything or agree to end your case. You can always focus on your health and let your attorney focus on the insurance companies. Now, what should you do if you hear these misunderstandings? What would this mean for you? First, let's remember, you need to be your own best advocate. If you feel like a medical provider isn't listening to you, or is brushing you off after an accident, speak up, ask questions, get copies of your own records. Don't be afraid to ask for a second opinion. If something doesn't feel right, trust your gut. Second, document everything. Every symptom, every appointment, every time you lose sleep or miss something important or have to take time off work. What I hear people really concerned about is being accused of being malingerers or exaggerators. They're right to be concerned about that. That's the normal first strategy the insurance company will play almost every time. But what's just as bad is not being fully honest with your doctors so that you don't tell them everything you're experiencing. Now you've taken away the ability the doctor could have had to help you. So don't exaggerate, but don't hide your symptoms and don't tough it out. If you're toughing it out, then you're not giving your doctor the chance to possibly tell you what could help you recover, so you don't need to tough it out like that. In Washington, you have time to understand your injuries and get the treatment you need. You do not have to settle before you're ready. And finally, don't try handling a complex injury claim alone, especially if you're getting conflicting messages from your providers. I can tell you, even personally, when I was in a car crash, I hired a different injury attorney to help me with my own. Why? Because it's much more stressful dealing with the insurance company when it's on your own behalf. And I knew that it would be better to have someone else dealing with them so that I could focus on my own personal recovery. When you have an attorney in your corner, the attorney handles all those stressful phone calls with the insurance company. They do this every day. It's not stressful to them. It's their profession. You can focus on advocating for your own health instead. This is one of the main ways that you can take action to protect yourself from medical missteps. To wrap up, today you learned about 5 medical mistakes after an accident in Washington. 1. You might not need more treatment, but be sure. 2. It might feel minor, but soft tissue injuries are still serious injuries. 3. You can choose your own provider. 4. Tests might not show everything. That doesn't mean you're not injured. 5. Don't rush to settle, even if coverage is tight. Don't fall for the pressure. Stand up for your own health, for your rights, and for your case. Thanks again for spending time with me today. If you want to learn more about protecting your health and your Washington injury claim, click the first link in the description. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you won't miss the next one.